When it is with wildlife, admire from afar. If you must handle a wild animal, make sure that you are wearing proper gloves.
That's the reminder from the founder of an Ontario wildlife refuge after a bat tested positive for rabies in Halton last week, one of at least 3 recently across the GTA. In writing, Halton Region Public Health saying, although rabies in bats is rare, bites from rabid bats have caused almost all human cases of rabies in Canada. Bats have small, needle-like teeth and their bites easily go undetected. Meanwhile, in mid-July, Toronto Public Health put out a public call to find the individual who dropped a bat off at a veterinary hospital in the Beaches. That bat tested positive. TPH confirming for City News Wednesday morning that they did reach that individual and determined there was no risk of potential rabies exposure. And then just a few weeks before that, in mid-June, York Region confirming a positive case there. But Chantel with Hobitse Wildlife Refuge is hoping we'll cut the bats some slack, saying a healthy bat is actually a lovely creature.
They are lovely. I mean, I love bats.
She says they're actually in trouble, with 7 of the 8 species in Ontario endangered. Adding the number of recent positive cases falls within the norm, roughly a dozen bats every year. She tells us the thing that makes rabies tricky for bats is that it's hard to administer a vaccine, they're migratory, and the incubation period for the virus in bats is indefinite.
So they can fly around with being carriers but not symptomatic, indefinite. And then sometimes for an unknown to us reason, they become suddenly symptomatic.
When we have one bat that's tested positive for rabies, is it typically that one bat, maybe a few others, or is it typically an indicator that there are a lot of bats?
Bats live in larger groups, the colonies, so they would, generally they would have bitten other bats, so there would be more bats positive within a colony, so there would be more, yes.
Are our cities full of bats, or is this something where it's really sort of once you get outside the city limits?
The bat population is definitely on a decline, but there is definitely bats living in urban settings. Most people are aware that they have a bat colony living in their home, or it can live between the siding. They don't need a lot of space. They can fit through tiny little cracks. So yeah, there is more bats in an urban setting, I think, than you probably are aware. When you should be concerned if you have a bat flying in your house in an area where people are sleeping, because if a rabid bat is flying around in your house and he bites you while you're sleeping, you won't necessarily know it.
Now, rabies is extremely rare in humans, but very deadly. If you think you, a loved one, or a pet has been exposed, the advice is to seek an assessment. For City News, I'm David Zura.